What do you get if you start the drive before you've established connection?
Check.
What is the biggest disruptor of flow and rhythm in the boat?
Check.
What is the most common inefficiency in rowing?
Check, check, check. Girlfriend.
Hey, this is Infinite Rowing, and in this series we continue identifying problems, thinking about what caused them, and finding ways to get rid of them. Check is a big one. It describes the stalling or sudden interruption of run on the boat at the placement. Considering how much work it has taken to get the boat running, the last thing we want to do is negatively affect that in any way possible. There is no way to eliminate deceleration completely at the placement, but there are a few things that we can do to minimize it. We will do further videos on the run of the boat and how to preserve it, but for now we are going to be looking at the biggest contributor to this not happening. There are a few things that are needed in order to reduce check, but some of them are going to feel a little bit counterintuitive. Let's first consider why it starts. Rowing is one of the most physically taxing sports out there, and we all know that we have to work hard if we want to go fast. It's therefore natural to think that we have to get onto the work as fast as possible. It's also natural to expect that if we effect a powerful drive, there should be load on the oar handle that we have to power through in order to get up to speed. So a couple of things are going to happen. We rush to get on the power, and in doing so, we start our drive before we properly establish connection. We push the hull backwards through the water relative to the direction of travel. Naturally, this results in deceleration. So when we get on the work, there is a misconceived but satisfactorily expected feeling of load on the oar handle. So here is where it becomes a little bit counterintuitive. If you nail the placement and connect properly before you drive, there is this feeling of, where's the load? This feels too light, I must have done something wrong. And then you start getting onto the work a little bit sooner to try and find it. It's not because you have done something wrong, it's because you are picking up a boat that has not decelerated as much, and you have actually done something very right. We do need to lay down the power, but if you're able to generate speed through efficiency, then you get to save that power for where it matters the most, and that is creating new speed rather than recovering speed that we have lost due to deceleration. If you are a 2-meter tall powerhouse with endless strength and endurance,
I have the power!
then you might think that this does not apply to you the same way it does to us mere mortals. But rowing is as much about finesse as it is about power. If, however, you are a 2-meter tall powerhouse and you never want to know what it feels like to be rowed through by a smaller but more competent athlete,
Ugh, I hate that.
then don't sign off just yet. Because of the weight ratio between boat and athlete, all that height and muscle can count against you even more than it does for a lightweight rower if you don't know what to do with it. Jazz hands or skying the blades is one of the most common causes for check. Because the blades are high off the water, it's easy to start the drive while they are still in the air before you've connected. If you've not checked out our video on this, please do. Let's have a look at what it looks like to minimize check by the fastest man in rowing. This is a low-rate piece, but this is where we learn the patience that we need to carry into pace. Watch the stern and try and find the telltale bob and stall associated with check. Look for the hull moving backwards in the frame. It hardly happens at all. The placement is deliberate, and you can see the way the spoon carves into the water with the backsplash almost entirely coming from the water rushing against it. We cover the placement and how to execute it in finer detail in this video. But for now, let's concentrate on what effect poor placement has on increasing check. If you need to be properly connected before you start the drive, then how do we know that we've achieved this? I don't mean to sound all zen,
Gonna get you zen on.
but if you're prepared to listen, the water will tell you. Is this blade connected?
Nope.
But you will feel the contact with the water. Is this one?
Not yet.
But you may feel like you want to start moving. But if you start the drive now, you will just be pushing against the void that the spoon has made in the water. How about now?
You're so close.
If you stay loose, which will result in the water moving you slightly as the blade carves into it, and you are patient enough to allow the water to fill up against the working face of the spoon, only then should you be putting pressure against the foot plate. Doing this effectively takes a little bit of patience, which is something that we probably don't feel like we should be having at the beginning of the drive. It is easier to do this at low rate, but it's possible at pace if you maintain the thought that you start acting on the oar handle once the water has told you to do so. You need to have this feel and awareness during the placement, which is very difficult to do if you have tensed up in order to attack the drive. You do need to be in a strong position before you effect the leg squeeze, but learning to relax will not only save you energy, but also help you with that feel of the water.
But wait!
There is a caveat to this, and that is the concept that we explored of finding connection with your hands. Basically, if you have the strength to row with a bent arm and don't let all the negatives in that come with that from a technical perspective, it may be possible to achieve quicker connection through the hands because no pressure was put directly on the foot plate in order to achieve it. But the jury's still out on this one, so we won't be promoting it just yet. But please check out our other video and let us know what you think. Let's have a look at the result that a reduction in check will have. This is the placement, the connection, the drive, the extraction and float, and the draw. If you check the boat badly, you will reduce boat speed at this point. If you're able to maintain the run of the boat even slightly here, you will increase the overall speed of the boat for this stroke for free, even if you do not manage to produce any additional speed at the end of the drive. Bearing in mind that it is much easier to pick up a boat that is moving rather than one that is slowed down, you will save energy while going faster if you manage to preserve the run at this point. So if you consider that the boat speed will increase slightly as a result of limiting the loss, even if you are able to maintain the stroke rate, you would go fractionally further in each stroke. This graph illustrates boat speed over time. But if we keep the stroke rate constant for both, then we can substitute time for distance traveled, and this will be the result. If you move a fraction further in each stroke without using more energy to do so, then this is what efficiency is all about, and this wins races. Let's have a closer look at what we can expect to see if you are getting this right. There will be a backsplash and the stern will lower, glide, and rise again as you move through the drive. If you are getting it wrong, there will either be no splash or, even worse, front splash. The stern will dip suddenly and the water passing it will visibly slow down. So, how do we achieve this? There are two kinds of check that occur at the placement. One, as we have shown, is driving too early before you've established connection. The other is driving too late as a result of not acting on the information that the water has given you at the time of establishing connection, or being locked out and pushing the spoon into the water against the direction of travel. I am constantly coaching the first one away from almost all of the athletes that I work with, not least of which myself. But I have never found anybody guilty of the second, despite how often you hear people saying that backsplash checks the boat. Drills are usually an exaggeration of what we are trying to achieve. So if you are guilty of the first and driving before the optimal moment, then we are going to push into the second in order to settle in the middle. So let's force a substantial backsplash. Get used to the feeling of getting the blade in much earlier than you think you need to, even if this means bashing the blade backwards into the water. Try to cause a negative effect on the boat speed by forcing the blade against the flow of the water. Get a feeling for what this makes the oar handle feel like against your hand. Once you are comfortable that you can feel this, try slowly eliminate almost all of it. Play with the feeling of pressure against the water and reduce it till you can hardly feel it anymore. The water does need to cause the oar handle to move, and if you stay loose and relaxed, you will start to move slightly with it. When the blade is submerged and the void is filled and you have started moving, you add to it by starting the drive through the leg squeeze. Getting rid of check is free speed. So let's all develop the patience, the feel, and the finesse needed to do so.